Good morning. Welcome back to our third Anchored in the Word morning reflection for the week. And we've been in Psalm 34, so let's all turn together there. We'll read verses 1 to 9, and then we will continue in our series. Here's what it says. It's a psalm of David when he changed his behavior before Abimelech, who drove him away and departed. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked unto him, and were lightened, their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. O fear the Lord, ye his saints, there is no want to them that fear him. Now, if you can remember back the last two days, what we've been talking about is we gave some introductory information talking about how low a point in David's life these details were written during. Yesterday, we looked at the fact that we're always going to be changed by challenges and difficulties in life. What I'd like us to look at this morning is the fact that how we respond to hardship is something that doesn't just affect us, it affects other people as well. And David really expresses that in these verses. Notice what he says in verses 2 to 3. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. We are not isolated in the choices that we make. The things that we do actually affect other people. There are so many examples of this. We think about every single kind of human relationship. We can make an argument that the choices we make affect others. So think about a child. A child's choices affect their parents. Or then we flip it around to the other side. A parent's choices affect their children. An employer's choices affect those who are under their employment. And those who are employees, well, the choices they make affect the people that employ them. Our choices actually have bearing on other people on some level. They're not meaningless. We could see this is both a positive and a negative principle. So the choices I make could have a tremendously positive influence on people. The choices I make could have a tremendously negative influence. And it goes into areas like our nation, our families, even Christian ministry. For instance, let me give you some examples. I think about something like the Great Depression. Now, my grandparents lived through the Great Depression when they were very, very small. And the truth is that the Great Depression and the way that their families related to that moment in history was something that left a tremendous mark on my grandparents. Even the way that they conducted themselves when it came to how they worked, how they saved money, all kinds of different areas, the Great Depression affected them. Or think about people who lived through World War II. The same generation they were children during the Great Depression. These were people that they were going and fighting in World War II. Or some of their high school friends and people that they knew very well. They went to Europe. They went to Asia and they fought in World War II. Think about the Vietnam War era and how that affected really the generation of people that are now seniors and retiring. I think about 9/11. I was in college during 9/11. The way that people responded to those things on a national level left a tremendous impact on the generations that followed that time period. And so when we think about the national level, Proverbs 14, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The way people think, the decisions they make, it affects others. Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. In the family context, a wise son maketh a glad father. A foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. Now, how a family processes one of the parents or a child getting cancer or going through a time of financial hardship or maybe experiencing a tragedy like a wildfire or a hurricane or a tornado. The way people respond to these challenges will shape the people that they influence. Even Christian ministry. I think about what Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 3. He says, thou hast fully known what manner of doctrine, manner of life, purpose, faith, long-suffering, charity, patience. And then he says, persecutions, afflictions, the ones which came unto me at Antioch, at Iconium, at Lystra, what persecutions I endured. Out of all of them, the Lord delivered me. When Paul talks about that, he basically is reminding Timothy of the events that took place at the very early days when Timothy was a brand new Christian. He watched the Apostle Paul suffer for the name of Christ. And when the Apostle Paul suffered for the name of Christ, the way he processed that and the way he responded left an indelible imprint on the heart and mind of Timothy. And so Paul is saying, Timothy, do you remember what I experienced? Do you remember how I processed that? Do you remember how I endured that? Do you remember how I encouraged you throughout? He says, let that affect you. What's the point? The point is that the way we respond to hardship is going to affect people for good or for bad, whether it's our children, whether it's our parents, whether it's coworkers, whether it's people that we minister to, whether it's the people we go to church with. The way we respond, it's going to affect other people. And David expresses that in these verses. He says that the humble shall hear thereof and be glad. He realized that people in hard places were watching him, and as they observed how he processed things and how God worked in his life, when they heard that, when they saw that, it uplifted them and it strengthened them, and they rejoiced in that. He also calls other people to join him in exalting the Lord. He says, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together." And so the point of this little section of the psalm is that when you and I experience hardships, how we respond matters. It responds, as we talked about yesterday, or it affects the fact that we will either grow and mature or we will become bitter and disgruntled. It's going to go one of two ways. That's on the personal side. But here we see it affects other people. And so my encouragement to you today is let's be faithful as we respond to the challenging situations of life. We are being watched. The things that we are saying and the way that we respond and what we're doing, it's touching the lives of other people, either for good or for bad. And my prayer is that by God's grace, it will be accomplishing something very positive in the lives of these people. They will see the grace that God gives, the strength and enablement that he gives, and that they will walk in the light of what they have seen, because God has proven himself in the lives of others. May God help us to be a good example of faithfulness when we go through hardships. Have a blessed day, and Lord willing, tomorrow we'll continue our series. Bye now.